The latter half of the 23rd century to the mid-24th century, Starfleet had been served well by its standard uniform design. But with Starfleet's new ship designs beginning construction for a new era of exploration, Starfleet Command decided it was time for a new uniform, and by 2353, it had debuted. Hello and welcome to Trek Facts, a fun and fast informational web series on the fundamentals of Star Trek. In today's episode, we're taking a look at Starfleet uniform designs from the year 2353 to 2370. Going back to a one-piece jumper style, Starfleet Command felt that a simplified version of the uniform would fit well with its new ship design era. Sleek and stylish by 24th century standards, this uniform would also take a simplified approach to department colors, and hark back to an earlier era of exploration for the United Federation of Planets. As a result, the division colors were once again the primary colors of yellow, blue, and red. Though to give their own spin on them, Starfleet chose to switch the yellow and red color division representations. Now red would represent command divisions, while yellow would represent the operational divisions. Blue would still represent the sciences and medical divisions, again tying back to an earlier era of Starfleet exploration. Worn with a simplified Starfleet Insignia, which doubled as a communications device known as a comm badge, this uniform also displayed rank insignia in the form of round pips, either solid gold or black with an outlined gold rim, known as a half pip, below the collar on the right side. The rankings were as follows. 1 half pip was Ensign Junior grade, 1 pip was full Ensign, 1 half and 1 solid Lieutenant Junior grade, 2 solid Lieutenant, 1 half 2 solid was Lieutenant Commander, 3 solid was full Commander, and 4 solid represented the rank of Captain. Admirals of all ranks would also get their own versions of both the pips and the uniforms themselves, though the pips would usually be on a special backing. The Admiral uniform variant would also contain many angular patches, which made it appear more of a wrap design, with gold-braided ribbon throughout the uniform. The standard duty uniform closed at the front, and was adaptable for away team missions, including areas to attach phasers, tricorders, and other equipment. While most officers wore the single-piece duty uniform, variants were available, such as the Scant version. All Starfleet personnel were also issued a standard dress uniform that had a long wraparound tunic top worn with black leggings. The rank insignias were not worn on this version. Instead, a band of gold braid ran the entire length of the jacket enclosure. An Admiral version of this uniform also existed, which was worn in the same style except for the gold braid, which was much, much thicker. While an updated version of the standard uniform was introduced in 2366, the 2350s variation remained in service, usually for lower-ranking personnel, until 2367, when it would begin to be phased out and gone completely by 2370. The Scant-style uniform was a short-sleeved dress that could be worn with or without trousers, and included knee-high or shorter black boots. It was worn by all genders, though men tended to wear the shorter boots until it was phased out of service in late 2365. Though this design represented Starfleet well for over a decade, the same complaints of discomfort as those from the early 2270s Starfleet uniforms surfaced from officers wearing this version. And so, reluctantly, Starfleet began to experiment with a few new types of this uniform design, before settling on a standard two-piece version in 2365. In fact, hybrids of the two uniform types were in use up until 2367, before being phased out completely. The new uniform style retained the same distinct two-tone color style as before. The newer version, however, featured a higher, more formal collar. Division color piping was relocated from the yoke to the top of the collar, leaving a flat black look. The comm badge remained on the left area of the chest, and division colors and ranking pips also remained the same. This uniform also had a sleeveless undershirt in the wearer's division color, worn beneath the uniform jacket and tucked into the uniform's pants. This new standard duty uniform was introduced to senior officers only at first, but ultimately would become the standard for all crew members by 2368. And in 2368, Starfleet had created a uniform variant jacket that they made available to commanding officers in service aboard starships. This variant consisted of a red Command Division suede jacket featuring banded cuffs and either leather or fabric black shoulders. Less formal than the standard duty uniform, this captain's jacket, as it would come to be known, was a more casual dress option, with trousers reminiscent of previous Starfleet uniform designs. Other variants included a maternity uniform, which was basically a dress with a standard pair of Starfleet trousers underneath. A dress uniform was also available. This version of the dress uniform introduced rank insignia to the right shoulder and swapped the single gold braid for two narrower braids running parallel to each other, and by 2366, the leggings had been replaced by the more standard black uniform pants and boots. This dress uniform would also receive minor changes and updates through its lifetime, including removing several inches of material from the bottom of the jacket, and a small section of gold trim was also removed. Starfleet medical personnel generally wore the standard duty uniforms, though medical officers could also wear a special lab coat over their uniforms. And although this was an approved Starfleet uniform variant, most officers serving in Starfleet would not bother with the lab coat. During surgical procedures, specialized scrubs were worn by medical staff, consisting of a burgundy-colored gown and cap. Medical personnel also wore rubber-like surgical gloves during the more intensive medical procedures and surgeries. A utility jumpsuit for technical personnel was also designed. This jumpsuit, available in 3 standard department colors, was worn over a black, long-sleeve mock turtleneck. A covert ops variant uniform was also designed to aid Starfleet intelligence officers to complete their covert missions. These were black, tight-fitting jumpsuits not marked with any Starfleet insignia or identifying marks at all. Having an optional hood and again worn with the standard uniform black boots, this uniform included a backpack, which could house mission-specific technical gear to ensure a successful mission. Cadets in Starfleet would also have their own variant version of the uniform, and this version was so successful that Starfleet would base its next uniform design change on them. A jumpsuit variant once again, this version would see the division color move to the shoulder area, while the rest of the uniform remained black. Officers were also permitted in certain circumstances to wear non-standard casual clothing, or even special accessories relating to their cultural heritage, though these uniform modifications would have to be approved by the commanding officer. As early as 2365, variants on the Admiral's service uniform were available. The uniform rank insignia was displayed as a box-shaped insignia with the pips inside, on either side of the high collar. Another alternative Admiral uniform was introduced in 2366. This alteration featured a long service jacket and trousers, similar to the standard duty uniform jacket, but was marked by a V-shaped black cutout trimmed in gold. The rank insignia were again enclosed pips worn on either side of the uniform collar, as well as displayed on both sleeves with 4 widely spaced thin gold braid stripes ending at the cuffs. In 2369, a new flag officer's uniform was yet again introduced. Retaining the familiar long jacket and trousers, this version was simpler, abandoning the distinctive black V-shape cutout from the previous design for a gold-trimmed closure running down the front of the uniform. The sleeves of this uniform were also modified, now bearing the rank insignia within a wide black cuff. Officers continued to wear these styles of standard uniform, even after the introduction of the next uniform redesign, which at first was only used aboard starbases. Still, while the two uniforms were worn in service together, giving officers aboard ship a greater choice of wardrobe, the more formal duty uniform fell out of service aboard starships by 2371. It continued to see use by officers serving at Starfleet Command on Earth, or in other diplomatic services as late as 2374, when a newer redesigned version would see those uniforms phased out as well. Generally felt to reflect Starfleet as an exploration entity, the colorful uniform designs were not dead and forgotten. In fact, by the 2390s, Starfleet again would adopt a similar variant to the cadet and later standard uniform designs to symbolize the diversity and adventure it represented. The significant contribution and effect on this era of Starfleet uniform design cannot be overstated. It would inspire generations of Starfleet uniform designs for many years to come.